Jameer, you breaking in my house? Like, are you serious? You breaking in my house, Jameer?
Why would I break in your house?
Why are you at my door with gloves on and all that?
Right now, a manhunt is underway for this man, a 36-year-old accused of kidnapping a local mother and nurse whose body police discovered last night.
Wilson was leaving Detroit Receiving Hospital after her overnight shift early Saturday morning when police believe Miller abducted her in the hospital parking lot. Wilson's kidnapper was wearing a blonde wig as a disguise.
Today, I will be the voice of my daughter, Patrice. I was sitting, going through my daughter's phone in her notes back in December 1st of 2021. She wrote to herself, "I'm in love with a man who murdered the mother of his child."
It began as a love story, but by the end, it was a tragedy that shocked the nation. When 29-year-old nurse Patrice Wilson posted a chilling video of her ex-boyfriend, Jameer Miller Sr., breaking into her home in 2021, it was a desperate cry for help, a virtual plea to family, friends, and followers who had witnessed her life unfold online. But what no one could have imagined was how 2 years later, the situation would escalate, ending in a horrific act of violence that silenced Patrice forever. But there's something eerie about Patrice Wilson's story. You see, exactly 10 years before Patrice posted that video of Jameer Miller Sr. trying to break into her home, a woman had gone missing. That woman was Bianca Green. She went missing in 2011 and was never found. That woman was Jameer Miller Jr.'s mother and Jameer Sr.'s former partner. Want to take a wild guess who the prime suspect in her disappearance was? Jameer Miller Sr. It makes you wonder if what they say is really true. If he did it before, would he do it again? Let's find out in the story of Patrice Wilson, the young nurse who was killed by an obsessed boyfriend after sharing a video of him breaking into her home.
Every time you think about her, think about her. You talk about you loved her. How could you love a person and you took her life? How? Is that love? Is that really love?
Patrice Wilson, a 29-year-old nurse from Detroit, was a dedicated healthcare worker, mother, and a quiet, caring person whose sole focus was helping others.
My beloved niece was not just a nurse, but a caring and selfish mother who dedicated her life to helping others.
She was described as the epitome of compassion and ambition, a dedicated nurse who had just started her career, dreaming of making a difference in the world. When you hear her family speak of her, they paint a picture of a vibrant, kind-hearted young woman who adored her family, her patients, and her tight circle of friends.
She had a heart of gold, always giving back to others. Big smile, kindness, and sweetness defines her.
Her smile was said to be her best asset, and she knew it. She smiled and laughed so easily. If she noticed anyone was tense or not having a good time, she would go to them and infect them with her giddy laugh. And before they knew it, they were laughing too.
Patrice could light up a room. Her infectious smile, her giddy laugh.
She always had a smile big enough to fill a room. I honestly believe she was the first person I recognized that had dimples. Me and her older brother were cousins, but we were just like brothers.
Patrice was one of those people you could say was just as beautiful on the inside as she was on the outside, if not even more beautiful on the inside.
She was a beautiful black woman. The thing that made her so special is that her soul matched her appearance. I was so proud to see that she did excellent, beautiful, smart, and driven in school. And she furthered her career.
But behind her cheerful facade, a storm was brewing, one she couldn't escape. When Patrice Wilson met Jameer Miller Sr., she fell in love immediately. His charming smile and easygoing demeanor immediately caught her attention. Jameer was equally drawn to Patrice's kind-hearted nature and her passion for helping others. The first time they met was straight out of a romance novel, or at least it felt that way to them. Their connection was electric from the start. Patrice was captivated by Jameer's confidence, and how he seemed genuinely interested in her work as a nurse. She loved how much he praised her dedication to her work, sometimes joking about how she was saving the world one patient at a time. Their relationship quickly blossomed, and soon they met each other's family and friends. Jamir charmed Patrice's family just as easily as he had charmed her. They saw him as attentive, funny, and supportive, the kind of partner who seemed perfect for someone as vibrant and caring as Patrice. But as their love deepened, subtle cracks began to appear. Patrice discovered a few things about Jamir she wasn't very comfortable with, something that scared her to her bones.
Today I will be the voice of my daughter Patrice. I was sitting, going through my daughter's phone and her notes back in December 1st of 2021. She wrote to herself, "I'm in love with a man who murdered the mother of his child."
She wrote this in her diary in 2021, not long after they met. At first, it was unclear what Patrice meant by this, and Jamir hasn't confessed to any other murder, but whatever she saw or found out, it clearly disturbed her enough to have written it into her diary. This clearly should have served as a warning to Patrice, a warning of what he was capable of. But at that point, Patrice was deeply in love with him, and so she stayed, probably hoping her story would end differently. But unfortunately, it wasn't. Everyone first got signs of a not-so-happy life when Patrice posted a video to her social media pages. In the video, Jamir could clearly be seen trying to break into her home. The video quickly went viral and sparked discussions amongst those who saw it. Some people dismissed it as a prank, while others expressed concern for her safety. At that point, Patrice had ended their relationship, but Jamir could not let go, and he started stalking her. Patrice had tried everything she could to get him to stop, and when he wouldn't back off, she decided to document his harassment in case things escalated.
Jamir, you breaking in my house? Like, are you serious? You breaking in my house, Jamir?
Why would I break in your house?
Why are you at my door with gloves on? All that.
She had no way of knowing how badly things were about to escalate.
Right now, a manhunt is underway for this man, a 36-year-old accused of kidnapping a local mother and nurse whose body police discovered last night.
2 years after she posted that video, on May 12, 2023, Patrice had a 24-hour shift. She was supposed to work from the morning of May 12th into the morning of May 13th, and she did her work like the hard worker that she was. Around 7 a.m. on May 13th, she clocked out of work and headed to her car with nothing more on her mind than some much-needed rest, when a man suddenly jumped out of nowhere and attacked her.
She had just gotten into her car in a parking lot near Detroit Receiving Hospital when a man jumped in.
And he approached our victim as she was getting into her driver's side of her vehicle. He then got inside the vehicle, forced her over, and fled with her inside.
The man forced Patrice into a 2020 Lincoln Nautilus and took off. When investigators got to the scene of the crime, the first thing they did was to check surveillance footage of the parking lot that morning. And guess who they found putting on a blonde wig just seconds before jumping Patrice? Jamir Miller Sr.
Wilson was leaving Detroit Receiving Hospital after her overnight shift early Saturday morning when police believe Miller abducted her in the hospital parking lot. Wilson's kidnapper was wearing a blonde wig as a disguise.
This is a photo of the black 2020 Lincoln Nautilus the two took off in. The suspect, 36-year-old Jamir Miller, is considered armed and dangerous, although police wouldn't go into detail about whether he was armed at the time of the kidnapping.
By the time investigators tracked the gateway car to the parking lot of Patrice's apartment complex in Novi, it was too late. Patrice was nowhere to be found in her apartment. Neither was Jamir, for that matter. But when they searched the trunk of her car, they made a shocking discovery.
Police found Wilson's vehicle at her apartment complex in Novi. Her body was discovered in the trunk.
At the time, not much was known about Jamir Miller, other than the fact that he attacked Patrice Wilson and forced her into his car.
Police do believe the two know one another.
We're thinking it may be domestic related.
But when he turned himself in a few days later, everything began to unravel, including a revelation about Jameer's family history that would send chills down your bones.
Devin, we're learning that Jamir Miller turned himself in actually yesterday afternoon around 2 o'clock. Only now is DPD confirming that arrest as the investigation continues. Heartbroken family members of Patrice Wilson say she and Miller at one time did have a relationship, but say Wilson was trying to get away from Miller. Viral video from a few years back, Wilson's family says is Miller allegedly trying to get in to Wilson's home.
Once Jamir realized that the jig was up and they had him on tape committing the crime, he turned himself in.
After several search warrants were executed, the suspect, feeling the pressure of this investigation, due to all of the search warrants, all of the activities by those agencies that I just identified, the suspect negotiated his surrender via his lawyer.
He confessed the full extent of what he did to the investigators, accepted the charges entered against in court, and plead guilty to the charges.
I guess this is the first time ever merciful, because I accept punishment without fight. I beg for forgiveness. I ask the treatment of the enforcement, and I pray for our family, our children, and our friends.
Throughout the process, he acted like a heartbroken man who made the singular biggest mistake of his life.
All right, Mr. Miller, the court will hear from you at this time.
I could read all these pages I wrote, but
when it was his time to speak in court, respond to not only the allegations against him, but all the heartbreaking statements Patrice's family had just read out in court, Jamir was choked up. So choked up that he could not continue reading the statement. His lawyer had to step in to read it for him.
I can read it for him. Can I read it for him?
That's fine.
And through his statement, he painted a picture for the court.
I have so many great memories of our time together. I catch myself and smile. I hold myself and I cry.
A picture of a man who made the gravest mistake of his life by murdering the love of his life.
I sit up every night, every day, every night, trying to figure out what to say. Beating myself up because I know that there is nothing I can say to make things okay. Nothing to say to make this reverse. Nothing to say to heal our families.
He said the entire experience was the worst experience of his life, saying he finds himself waking up in the middle of the night in a fit of sweats after having nightmares about the moment he pulled the trigger that ended Patrice's life.
This has been the worst, most haunting experience of my life. I have dreams and nightmares of all of our great times, all of our okay times, all of our days of experience, even the bad and the toxic arguments. I would trade the world and have them back, and not this truth of tragedy. I literally wake up sweating, heart beating heavy because of reenactment of this morning that caused much pain to so many loved ones.
He admitted that he acted foolishly in the heat of the moment, and Patrice did not deserve to pay for that, when all she ever wanted from him was his love, support, and loyalty.
Patrice didn't deserve this. We don't deserve to lose both our lives over foolishness. We have people that really love and care for us. All she wanted was security, and I'll never leave her and be able to be each other's crutch and backbone.
If you were wondering if Jamir Miller ever revealed the why he pulled the trigger that ended the life of a woman that was supposedly that important to him, the love of his life, the mother of his children, well, according to Jamir, it all had to do with money.
Money is the root to evil, I swear. All I wanted was my money, and all she wanted was me to pay off that money. And now we pay with our lives.
When they broke up and Patrice moved on with her life, they still had some payments between them that needed to be made, which is very normal for couples. Patrice wanted Jamir to complete the payments so they could be done with it. Jamir didn't want to.
I wish that now I could have been the bigger person and said, yes, pay it off. It was not worth it.
When you live together and join lives, finances and properties get joined too. And in a lot of cases, that becomes a problem later on in the relationship. It definitely did for Jamir Miller Sr. and Patrice Wilson.
I really hurt over this. I wanted to cry when Ms. Rosman took the stand because I felt her pain. I felt exactly how she felt in my body. Patrice was my heart. All she wanted from me was to leave the streets alone. not wait for potential. I failed her. I failed us. I failed our kids, our family, and our friends. I am so ashamed. All she wanted from me was to submit to Christ, pray, and repent. And now look.
The reality now is that another child has to live without their mother. Another beautiful black woman destroyed rather than loved and cherished.
Because Jamir was the only one with her that morning, he was the only one who knew what her last moments were. He talked about those last moments in court.
I think about that morning so often that I find myself in deep thought and then crying.
He talked about the moment he pulled the trigger, the look in her eyes when she realized he had fired at her. He talked about how quickly went into nurse mode, giving him instructions on how he could save her life.
I think about the moment leading up to getting in the car. I think about what happened in the car. I think about when I came, when I said, come on, let's go back to receiving. I think about her telling me to stop, how to stop the bleeding.
He talked about how even though she had been hit and was literally fighting for her life, she was still concerned for him. In those last moments, as she struggled to breathe, she wasn't worried about herself. She was worried about him, worried about the interaction he would have with the cops.
I think about her telling me she didn't want the police to kill me. I think about our last moment. It hurt so bad. I wish we could have put our mothers in this situation. I truly do.
She knew the kinds of interaction unarmed black men have with the police, least of all one that was armed and had just murdered someone.
I believe at least she would have had a chance at life no matter what would have happened to me. She still, after all this, didn't want for me to be harmed, and this will continue to hurt my soul every second of eternity.
That's the kind of person she was, capable of immense kindness even to the one person who definitely didn't deserve it.
Chris Rock said in that quote that you never know that the last time you see someone will be the last time that you see someone. This may be the last time I see anyone, the last time anyone sees me. I should never have the last time seeing Patrice, and that shouldn't have been her last time seeing me, the last time period. And even if God or her family or my family doesn't forgive me, I would do what she asked me.
After he painted his own picture, the lead prosecutor revealed the actual truth.
Ms. Woodside?
Have one moment.
Okay.
She revealed that Jamir didn't make a mistake that day. Rather, it was a careful and calculated plan he put in place because he got greedy.
But he went there with a purpose. He went there to stalk Patrice. He went there to ambush her. And he did. 35 years isn't enough for somebody's life. It isn't. I agree with Ms. Colston.
While asking the courts to impose the maximum sentence required, she revealed that Jamir Miller was not new to DV.
But it is a reasonable plea, given the circumstances of the case, given his guidelines, and I ask the court to impose that 35 to 60-year sentence that the people and the defendant have agreed to.
Miller has an extensive criminal history for gun and drug charges, assault, drunk driving, and running from police.
In fact, he had a history of putting hands on women, so attacking Patrice Wilson could not be a mistake if he was just doing what he had done many times before and gotten away with.
The defendant, as evidenced from his pre-sentence report, has a history of domestic violence between other women and obviously now Ms. Wilson. The defendant in his pre-sentence report made a comment about this offense. And his comment about this was that it was unnecessary and should not have happened. People agree that that statement on the part of the defendant is 100% accurate. This was a crime that never should have happened because he never should have went to Detroit Receiving Hospital that morning. But he did. Out of jealousy, out of anger, we don't know.
But probably the most shocking revelation that came out of the courts during that time was the revelation that Jamir Miller had done this before.
Jamir Miller Sr. is linked to a missing nursing student, 24-year-old Bianca Green, who went missing in 2011, last seen in Inkster. She was pregnant. Miller and Bianca had dated and have a child together, Jamir Jr.
Way back in 2011, Before he met Patrice, Jameer Miller was dating a young woman named Beyonce Green. They had a son together named Jameer Miller Jr. and were expecting their second child when all of a sudden, Bianca vanished.
Here is Miller at a Crime Stoppers press conference back then holding their son.
It's hard being a single father, and it's hard for me to even tell him what's going on.
We ain't never give up hope, but we was trying to give Jameer the benefit of the doubt.
Of course, when a woman disappears, the partner is always the first suspect, so all eyes turn to Jameer. But no matter how hard the look, her family could not find any proof that he had something to do with her disappearance.
He was questioned but never charged in Bianca's disappearance. You know she wouldn't have left Jameer Jr.
She wouldn't have never left Jameer. That was her, like her Velcro. She wouldn't have never left her son.
All they had was their gut. They knew deep down that she didn't just vanished and had been unalived by him. But they had no real evidence, so they had no choice but to let it go. But now that Patrice's story came out, Bianca's family couldn't help but connect the dots.
But now, after 12 years, this family is questioning everything after learning Miller was arrested in connection to Patrice's death. In Bianca's case, family always suspected foul play.
Bianca's family are now hoping the cops might want to take another stab at her case, which might finally lead to either a conviction or at least the location of her body, so they could finally bury their loved one.
What do you hope comes out of this now that Jameer's in custody?
That we get some type of closure.
Just like Patrice's family are now hoping for closure.
Jameer, you murdered my best friend and my first cousin, Patrice. Your horrendous act has devastated my family and destroyed her mother. The sleepless nights are too numerous to count. The nightmares, the endless stream of tears haven't stopped. Nor will they anytime soon.
Patrice's family and friends took the stand to give an impact statement during the sentencing, starting with her best friend and cousin, who wished she had hugged Patrice one last time before she passed away.
Patrice could light up a room, her infectious smile, her giddy laugh. To hear her voice again as I walked through the door to her, "Hey girl," is all a distant memory. My only regret is that I didn't hug my cousin once more. Jameer, you took Patrice away from her child, her family, and friends for your own satisfaction. The tremendous void will never be filled and the heartbreak will never go away. All we have is photos and videos, just memories, but the memory of Patrice will live forever. You don't deserve the privilege of being a free man ever again. You are evil, and I hope every day of your life my first friend and my first cousin Patrice stays on your mind.
Patrice's grandmother also took the stand and gave a heartbreaking statement. She struggled to understand why a man who claimed to love her granddaughter could hurt her in that way.
I am so angry that you have caused for my family. You know, it's almost like words I don't even want to. I can say to you, I don't understand you. What kind of person are you? It's not even hard. It's hard for me to even talk. Because what I really like to say or touch, what kind of person were you? What kind of person are you to do this to her? Every time you think about her, think about her. You talk about you loved her. How could you love a person and you took her life? How? Is that love? Is that really love?
Patrice's aunt said,
"Her memory will forever be the source of inspiration and love. The loss of Patrice, who I love dearly, has left our family shattered. She had a heart of gold, always giving back to others. Our bond was strong, and we supported each other through thick and thin. Her absence has left an irreplaceable void in our lives."
She talked about how close she was with Patrice, saying they were thick as thieves, and her life without Patrice is simply not complete.
Her big smile, kindness, and sweetness defines her. And even though we will never comprehend why this tragedy occurred during her untimely death,
it's clear that the reason Patrice's passing has affected so many people is because of how she lived, for people. She loved her friends and family and made sure they knew it. She had an impact in the lives of her students and her community.
her death has not only robbed her of a bright future, but also left her son growing up without his loving mother. The question of why and how this could ever happen will forever haunt us as a family as we try to come to terms with the profound grief and emptiness left in the wake of her loss.
Many times, women like Patrice enter into relationships with men who showed them one side of them, only to find a completely different person once they were well and truly in the relationship. For most women, they simply end the relationship and move on, hurt, but still alive to tell the story. But unfortunately, the story does not end the same across the board. In some cases, like Patrice Wilson's, the women do not live to tell the story. What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for joining us today as we explored Patrice's story. Our hearts go out to her family and loved ones. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more captivating stories. Until next time, stay safe.